as most of you guys know, I've always used the market delta charts. That's not what this is specifically, just market delta charts. But the delta that a lot of the Edge Team Room guys have toyed with, come up with, I've thrown up some of it, all kind of building off of some of the delta profile we covered, and some neat things that kind of transpire as you build and you talk about the right things. So there's some interesting identifications that I've kind of pulled out that I'll share with you, and then you could kind of continue this ongoing. Either in this discussion, as guys want to talk, I could undo your mic and talk about how you're using it if it's something I miss, because I'm not going to cover every use of it. But I think it's important that you know, first of all, that every time a market rallies, it's got to break, it's got to rally, right? There's too much buying and too much selling that often occurs. With these meetings, I want to cover where we're at for those that aren't in the trading room daily, such as the Fed's been a little bit more hawkish. They're pricing in a better chance for a June rate hike next month, and yet the equity markets aren't weak. They don't stay weak. They jump right back up and keep chiseling on these all-time highs. You've got rollover coming in the next couple of weeks, next week or two in the ES. You've already rolled the bonds for Treasury futures traders, so be aware of that. Unemployment week, Friday, 7:30. We open the trading room early, 7:15, to go over that number, and then that trade, that's Friday. Tomorrow, ISM, second biggest number of the month. For those that are watching this on a recording, we're in the last day of May. Tomorrow starts the first day of June, which has ISM, and the first Friday of the month has the unemployment report, which is this Friday. So some decent data coming out as the week rolls on. So let's roll with just going over some actual charts. I don't have slides. I don't think they were necessary. Let's take this one first and bring it over. So I have this one on my horizontal 27-inch monitor, and it lays out a little bit better for me. This is one, I think, George, did you bring this one? Wisconsin George? I don't know if is he here? Yeah. This was kind of your doing a little bit. Delta profiles are on the right for today, for yesterday, for accumulation. That's why we're dipping down in here. These 92s are, well, we talked about some support anyways. It got weak right in here and then stayed weak, and the bears, even though there were some opportunities to buy bottoms, it stayed weak. The bears had the leash because it just couldn't rally in here. If you guys were in the trading room the first hour, man, it had every chance in the world to go through one even, one half, one even, one half. Wham, it didn't. Caught a lot of longs that were sleepy, enough of them off guard to kind of extend this sell-off throughout the rest of the morning. In the middle here, so this is just, I'm not going to get into what this 987 is. This is what I'm watching, just trying to keep it simple. And then you guys could drill down more and more in it in the team room. This line here in the middle, all right, that's taking the last 20 bars from above and creating what that total delta is. So essentially it's the recent past of where the delta is. We should know, or you guys should know at this point, that the delta is aggressive buyers minus aggressive sellers. Price goes down, delta is negative. Price goes up, delta is generally positive, right? That's not a leader lagger. That's just what it does. You're going to see a stronger delta on a bigger update almost every time. So the middle, just pay attention to the middle here. What I think is interesting are these divergences that you get, but with these as being like in here where you get a couple interesting ones. There's two ways price, which is up in here, could diverge with delta, which is this white line, could diverge. First one is price goes higher, but the delta isn't as bullish, meaning it's lower. So this line, let's put a pen on it. I'm trying to start simple first. So this line down in here is the delta, right? Aggressive buyers versus aggressive sellers. When delta goes down, it means more people are selling it. Now they're blaming the Italians again. They blame us for everything. But they love our food and our movies. All right, so delta goes down, price goes down. We talked about that. Price goes up, delta goes up. But look at this, where the price goes up higher than these highs, but delta is way lower. Now, this might be a case of being overnight. I don't like this divergence as much because I'd be afraid that there's more buying to come. Now, it worked, obviously. Picked a nice top. I think this was from yesterday, so it could have a lot to do with the abbreviated session, blah, blah, blah. But there's two ways it's going to diverge, right? Price is going to go higher than delta from the recent high or vice versa. I like the vice versa. I like a bigger delta, but yet price isn't as high. That means there's people that aren't getting satisfied because price is what ultimately pays you. I don't care if delta is screaming higher. If price isn't following it, I'm not getting paid on my long, right? So if the delta's screaming higher, it's safer to assume there's people getting long and not getting paid. That's indicative of a top potentially. So that's a divergence I would think you would want to see more of, upside or downside. Let's look at these two back over here. All right. You could see price makes a low, then makes a lower low. And then if you look at the corresponding delta, it craters there, comes up, and really can't even go lower than it was previous. There's just not as much selling, it would seem. And don't overthink this as price. Price came all the way back down and went below. Why didn't the delta? So it could mean a bottom has arrived. This is summary of the sum of 20 bars, and this is actual price. So then we come over, let's see if we could find another one this morning where you had the delta looking pretty similar to price, all in here, goes down a little bit, not as strong. Here's one where price is a lot stronger than the delta. So you got a weak delta, more sellers, and price really hasn't followed. That was after, it seemed like after the open. So you could see the delta's up there, price is up there, lower delta, higher price. Now, another interesting part. You know how let's go back to this screen. Do you know how and I'll just draw, shoot. Let's do this. Move that over. Just go to a blue screen. You know how we talk about all the time, the 6P&F, the station to station chart and everything. When price goes down, goes up, chops around, let's say goes down, comes up, middle of that consolidation will be resistance, lines in the sand, right? Well, you got to play around with if delta has some of those attributes. All right, so right in here was a cluster of delta. And look where it came to, stopped right there. Cluster of delta, market rallies up, stops right there. If you could play delta and you know that the delta's topping out, price is going to top out. That's a good You have to anticipate it. It's not going to lead it necessarily. But you can anticipate price come off if delta has reached resistance. Creating support and resistance in the delta, could be helpful on bigger moves of it. Does that make sense to you guys? So you kind of get delta, the delta really V-shaped up. And while price V-shaped up, man, it didn't get close to as high as delta did. You got to keep everything relative. These numbers, these absolute numbers don't mean a whole bunch. It's just the pattern of what the aggressiveness in the, as you chunk out the times. Is that this middle one, Dave? I'm going to open up your mic. So it's like you're in the conference room with us, if you don't mind. All right, hold on. Let me find Dave. Dave, how are you?
Hello again.
What is that, a UK expression for chap?
Oh, no, I was just so you could find me to unmute me.
Oh, it was a typo?
Yes. My space bar.
I haven't been called a lamb in a long time. That's why I wasn't sure.
That's supposed to be here I am.
Oh, I've been called a lamb, but just not in a while.
What I was going to add, Anthony, is I actually do watch the extreme levels of that. So I've got marks at 0 and then plus and minus 5,000. You're right. The extreme value of a specific value doesn't mean anything in isolation. But when you see plus 5 or 10,000, it's time to really start paying attention. And the other thing I would add was to the bottom pane, the accumulated delta. I have mine larger, and I read it like a price chart.
Which one? Which one? This bottom down here?
Correct.
Really?
Yeah. So,
okay.
so make it a little bigger, and then try to compare that against price. I was just telling the guys in the edge room that the downtrend you see in there kept me in a short from 95. I got out too early because I bailed out at the edge of the volume profile because I didn't think it'd go as far as it did, but that kept me in, the fact that delta was going down like that.
What kept you in was it what? That
it kept going down. So line it up against the price at about 953. You see how it's pretty much flat. And then from 942 to 953, 1042 to 1053, it's kind of flat, but it looks like it wants to tick down.
Right in here.
So that just, yours looks different than mine. Mine was, I see what it is. You've got the bars. So it's a different image. It's harder for me to read that way. But then it started to tick down, and it was very close to, if you saw that picture on the price chart.
This is really interesting. There's more left potentially because it came down here once, came down here twice, and this is like, well, you're saying a price chart goes down.
Yep.
Stops.
Yep. Read it like a price chart.
Like delta sell stops. You could look at it as delta sell stops. That's interesting. Anytime you see something that's charting similar to an underlying instrument, it's going to be value. There's going to be value there. So the delta would not matter if it was just erroneous and random. But when you get a strong delta, price is always moving in tandem. So if you could pull out, if it led it would be golden. Nothing really leads all the time. Sometimes there are great leaders. That's the whole key of this business. That's your best edge, by the way, and we always talk about that. But when you have something that charts similarly but not exact, then you look for discretion or discrepancy. Number one, or number two, the extremes, like don't get short because this thing generally doesn't move in swings of what would you say, Dave? The delta.
I don't know if there's an absolute value for that. I would say once you flip for an experiment, your bottom pane, flip that to is it a candle? Let's see. Yeah, flip that to a candle instead of those bars, and look how, because it's kind of hard to read a price chart configured that way.
What do I do? Go in preferences?
Yeah, let's see. Is it in preferences? It might be. Let me look.
Style? No.
Yes, edit preferences on it, and then the results show it as delta bars. No, not those preferences. Double click on the indicator itself.
Got it.
And then change the up result. It's the second row. Go up. Up. See where it says delta buy sell volume?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Make that delta bars.
Nice. Now it's easy
Now
to
you can
read.
read it like a price chart. Or it's easier for me. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's different, but it's easier for me to read it like a price chart.
I like
that way.
that. Yeah. So it's like it was going to break out, period. That's it. Look for a breakout.
It looks like it's getting ready to head up. A bunch of guys in the edge room are long.
The 92s was a good line in the sand anyways.
Yeah, they're better than 92. I think they're 91 or quarters, somewhere in there.
Nice. 90.
Maybe half.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good. What was 90?
But I didn't get in because I'm talking to you, Anthony, so I'll send you a bill.
Send me an invoice, no problem.
Yeah, that's fine.
Put it on my tab.
Put it on account you're not going to pay?
Yeah. You're getting like Carl. Be careful. Those jokes. Not that bad, though. So now that's cool. That's to compare it. So I'm kind of looking at the thing is with this chart, with this middle chart, because it's a sum of 20, you're like, all right, it's not a running total, it's a sum, but it is a running moving average, so to speak, and I'm talking about this middle pane. That's why you can't look at the absolute. You got to look at the runs. And here's the thing, like, well, you could say 5,000. If it runs 5,000, then it's overdone and the rubber band is stretched. On certain days, yes. You got to know the context of the day. The last week or so, yeah, I would say a run of about what would you say, about 5,000 has been extreme?
It is. We hadn't hit 5,000 on the plus side today. We hit 5,000. It exceeded 5,000 negative a few times, but we didn't on the upside.
In this middle pane?
Correct.
Okay. But if you get a run, like this run was, this big sell-off was, well, I guess it did start at zero, if you think about it. Boom. The steepness of it went
Look at the beginning
8,000.
of that. Look how you got all those stuck guys in there. You got all that positive delta, which is recent. So you're looking at recent action. So there's a bunch of recent guys bought, and they're not getting paid. So as soon as it started backing off, they were stuck.
Where are you at? Say that again.
Where you were. Let's see, let me back up. Yes, right there. So look at that. So you got all the positive delta in there. And even back a little bit, you got those guys buying and buying around just after 9 o'clock, yeah, and then back up a little bit from that, go up the hill.
And that doesn't
those guys, yeah, go back about 10 minutes, yeah, to the prior peak. There you go. So all those guys that made that delta push, they're all stuck.
Yeah. I was one of them, but I got out for a break even, actual profit, and wasn't stuck when I also tied in that oil really jumped and we couldn't jump with it. And bonds then jumped, biotechs went down, it got me out. If I wasn't long, I'd probably be short and then caught this, but because I was long, I saved money instead of making money, but sometimes that's the same thing. But yeah, you could see deltas running up and price isn't running up with it. Like it runs up here with it, great. But this next leg up doesn't have price on board with it. That's the divergence of, hey, you got the buying to go up, but they're not getting paid. And it just keeps you, that's order flow, charting order flow. That's using the footprint and delta, 101, 102. Can you filter the delta on size? Yeah. Yeah, right?
Ted's doing it, and I'm not sure how successful he's been. If he's listening, maybe he can chime in. I tried it, and it didn't really speak to me much, but some other guys have tried it.
Yeah. Don't try to look for the perfect. I mean, you could look for getting better and better, but nothing perfect. Just high percentage is what we're all after, because nothing's perfect except me. But nothing's perfect from a going to work all the time. Just better. All right, here. Bob says, at present, the delta sum has made higher lows since about 940, and the delta bars are flat to inclining. Good place to get long. It is a divergence where the delta isn't as low as price went. And if that works, it works. I like when the delta's lower than price for a delta divergence. I think it's already good price. You should already be long.
The other thing that happened with that is, as it was pushing down on the 987 reversal, it had a big negative delta on that too. Not this chart, the 987.
This upper
delta
one?
Reversal. No, it's our 987 delta reversal, which is a completely different chart than this.
Really? Mine says 987 tick.
Yep, yours is tick.
I see. I got it.
Yours is on tick, then the delta reversal is what.
Got it.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah, so you should already have entered like those guys, it sounds like in the team room did.
Yep, they did.
91.5 area. Wow, it actually went 90.75 trade briefly. See, this is like when you spend time discussing this, you're not discussing theory. You're discussing order flow. You're discussing what guys are doing and is price, reacting like it should. It's order flow. It's stuck traders. And to taking another step, and I don't want to pour too much on everybody, but take an ancillary and see, in the same, because there was some interesting things that a guy, I won't mention him, outside the Edge community, he's a prop friend of mine, said he was creating an indicator to not only look at the ES in almost this context, but also the Euro stocks. And when you had those circles overlap, and you had a move with too much buying and not that reaction. Too much buying and not price reacting with it like it should. All order flow stuff. Try it, Gary. If you put a percentage next to delta profile, I think it's kind of doing that, isn't it? In a way, it's comparing like the other delta bars based and kind of creating on the delta profile he's talking about.
I don't see what he's saying. What's his question?
I think the delta profile, if you had a percentage, so if you edit this profile and you put a percentage, delta percent, is that what you're saying, Gary? Let's just toy with it here. It kind of is doing it for you. It's giving you a number now, but you could almost assume that it's always measuring against what the other delta bars look like.
Yeah, those percentage numbers don't really do much for me. The big bars sticking out, that's that.
Right.
That speaks to me.
To me, it's almost redundant. I mean, it's good, but it's a redundant stat. See, this is the cluster on a 5-day. You see all these longs down in here between 90.5 and 92. It's no coincidence that's where we fell into it and kind of popped out. Now look at this guy at 87. Be shocked if that wasn't support when we got down there. You got better lines in the sand. You got better areas of doing business than any profile like volume and market profile concepts will give you with this delta profile, period. And the simplicity of it is fits right into the why didn't I think of that moment, right? How many guys would agree? It's like, man, why didn't I think of that? And you build it up. It's like when someone invents something else, you're like, man, why didn't I think of that? I don't mind people toying and adding things. Just don't look for perfection. Just keep getting better on helping you address a weakness that we all have, which means when we're not trading well, we get weak at executing. That's all our weaknesses. This is what good community is about. Ken says the summing works brilliantly on the DAX, forewarns bigger moves, removes the noise. This middle chart and pain, Ken?
Boy, removing the noise from the DAX is saying something. That's one noisy instrument.
That's like me after a few scotches. Good scotch, though. You drink scotch, Dave?
You bet. We'll have to have a few scotches one of these days.
I look for fights, though, after a few. Not with you, but I'm just joking. I'm more mature than that. I'm reading some of the comments as they've came in. All good stuff, Larry. All good stuff. So this middle pane, Ken, you didn't answer. Is it this one? And is it 20 bars that you're looking to sum for that instrument?
It's the tick count we need to know from him. That's the tell.
Right, because it's like the last 20 bars of what, right?
Correct. Yeah, 20 bars is the right answer, but you got to get the tick right.
Yeah, right. Well, come into the team room and share that definition when you get a chance, Ken. Does that make sense? That's probably the best bet. And I'll tell you, oil, don't short oil. Oil looks like it wants to just, no pun intended, explode. If I pull up oil in here, you could see it has not broke at all with the S&Ps. It looks like it just wants to take the lid off of 50.
So we're plus almost 3,400 delta, and there's a stuck buyer at 92. Well, he's stuck so far, 92 3/4, 495 times.
So when you say plus 3,400, which chart are you looking at?
The delta reversal, the 987 delta reversal.
Got it. I'm going to look at that also, because that's more of a micro look, would you say, Dave?
That's just a different version.
Right.
It's not. I don't know that it's micro. It's just a different way of looking at delta across price movements.
I think you could take this delta. See the high in here? I think that's about where the buying is going to stall. Cover those 91 halves. And it's like, it tells you good targets also. You're letting the market talk to you. And remember, this chart at the bottom here is delta. That's it. It's just a bar candlestick version of it, so it's easier to look at and read like a chart. All order flow stuff. He's going to stick the definition in the team room or the trading room, whatever one he's in first, because he uses Elrenco for his periodicity. I'm better off just sharing the definition.
Yeah, be careful with that. Remember, we're having trouble with imports on these things, so
with that one too.
Work, but I don't know. It's just this particular chart from several different definitions has been blowing people's market deltas up. You need to send it to Trevor so he can enjoy it too.
All right. I don't want it. Well, what makes you so this price similar, Ken's, right?
It could be. I don't know if it will or not.
I know. Just be careful,
get
right?
people to back up their data F before they try it, because I'd hate to cause a problem.
Well, maybe you could try it for us.
Yeah, no thanks. I already blew mine up once. Clayton did instructions about how to build the chart, so that's been our alternate method, is to use those instructions and build it yourself.
Yeah, I seen that. That was a nice little guidebook or thing you put together. I don't know how similar this is. Well, it's similar. It's just some different settings. We'll get to them and figure out how to build it. What's that, Tom? You use what? But just to summarize, this is these three panes. This is the one that's been sticky and blowing things up, this chart, Dave?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, that's the one. The delta reversal doesn't have any problems. We haven't had any problems. We share lots of chart definitions, and this one is the only one that's given us trouble.
Wow. Well, pay attention to this. This divergence with, like you got the delta got real weak there, and then price below it. The delta doesn't get as weak. Price does. It signals a little bit of a bottom. Comes into this consolidation in there. Boom. Exact resistance. You could take this consolidation, wham, exact resistance. You could even say this was consolidation in here and it slowed it down a little bit right across this consolidation. Didn't slow it down. I would imagine this is some support on the way down. But just keep an eye on using this and also read that as a price chart, like you read a price chart. Continuing giving you different advantages over people that aren't privy to this.
There are other guys teaching cumulative delta. Nobody's doing the sum. I've not seen anybody do it but us.
No. They're going to do stuff that's even when they trip over this, they'll do conventional wisdom uses of it. Where have you seen it, like on YouTube and stuff?
Yeah, there's a couple of guys that talk about it on YouTube. So, and they've got different views. They use it differently than I would, but more power to them. Let them go play.
Right. It's if you identify your weakness, and that is execution, pulling the trigger. You're constantly working on things to find, if you're confident with location, you'll be confident with pulling the trigger. So it addresses both. And different things kick people in the rear end to get them to turn the corner at different times for different reasons. And just keep chugging along that right path. But it's like this was stalling out. Even look at this a second. We use the station to station. This was consolidation. Draw a line over. Where'd it go to? Stop. Now it's rotating off of it. This is a consolidation box.
Sorry, Anthony, I added the rest of the stuff that happened. So you had a stuck buyer or potentially stuck buyer. Now he's stuck. That came out at 92.75. You had the large positive delta on the delta reversal. There was a zone at 93.94. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's all coming together there.
I actually could see this better on my horizontal than it's kind of more squished up on this. I should say my vertical is what I usually have this on, my 27 vertical. Thanks, Clayton. So Clayton's got a link to the setting for the 987, to the chart that you guys see, step-by-step instructions to build it and market delta charts yourself. Let me see if I can copy this link here. Copy. And send it to all. 1 second. Go to chat. Oops. It's an old Google address I had. You go in your Google Drive if you have a Google Gmail account. Thanks for putting that together, Clayton, because that's pretty helpful. It can get kind of sticky putting this chart together. All right, that's it for today. I encourage you guys to go into the team room because a lot of this stuff you build on in there, and the repetition of seeing it, getting consistent on what's comfortable for you is key. Man, your reference will become so much better. You know, you'll have better mirrors on your car, so to speak. This is an old close, I think. Let's get rid of it. Good delta profile down around 91, 92. It held. We bounced. And then that 87, some stuck shorts from the other session. Keep an eye on that if we stay weak. Biotechs have been strong today, so people watching this in the future, obviously it's not going to be as relevant. But all that delta work is, keep an eye on the obvious stuff that's opposite of conventional wisdom, but then spits out, slaps you in the face to say, why are you going to sell it with such a good run in delta, not just price? But boy, delta's maybe overdone. Or, hey, it broke a little bit, you're afraid to sell it, but the delta's come back green and price hasn't. Gives you confidence to just give it a shot there. It's a better location if you know that the delta bounced but price didn't, so you're not in the hole, as we used to say. This is the 495 lot stuck long. That's making price a little more difficult to drive up through it. I'm going to stop the recording real quick, end it for those watching it in the future.